Eccoci qua, finalmente. Buongiorno o buonasera e benvenuti alla quinta settimana di Q&A webinar, o come si direbbe in italiano, il webinar per le domande. It's funny because Italian doesn't really have a Q&A expression, so we'd have to just call it webinar per le domande, for the questions. Ok, benvenuti e buongiorno, buonasera di nuovo. I'll just wait the usual couple of minutes to check that, one, you can hear me, two, that I am streaming, and three, that there's the usual 1 minute delay. So as a reminder, everybody's welcome to join, and it's really great to see you there. I will check who's online in a second. As usual, you can ask me any questions. They can be relevant to week 5, but if you're a little bit behind, you're obviously free to ask any questions from any content that it's, past. Okay, I can see that I am live, which is great. And I'd like just to wait for somebody to tell me that you can also hear me, and then we can start, and I'll be answering your questions. So week 5, it's pretty amazing how time has flown. Il tempo è volato. Il tempo è volato. Let me spell that because it's a really common expression. We say il tempo vola. Time flies. Il tempo vola. Time flies. See, il tempo, meaning the time. Vola. So what's the verb? What's the infinitive of vola? If I say vola and I mean flies, what is the verb? What's the dictionary entry of to fly? Can you guess? I'll just give you a couple of seconds. There you go. Volare. Volare means to fly. Not to be confused with volere, which means wanting. Volere is wanting and volare is flying, so you don't want to mix those up. Even though if you did in the right context, you still be understood, obviously. But the thing is that the present tense of volere and volare is so completely different. Like if you want to say I fly, you'd say volo, but if you say I want, you'd say voglio. Completely different sounds. Volo, voglio. Volo is nice and flat, volo. Equal importance to both syllables, volo. Whereas voglio, you pick at the vo, then you pause, and then you have a strong y, voglio, voglio. So that's how they're different. Volare. Now, if you're not in your 20s, then, or I don't know how old you would have to be, but I know it. There's a famous song, pretty old song, which goes volare. It goes. Don't ask me to sing. I'm an Italian who can't sing, but it's pretty famous. It's Domenico Modugno. It goes volare, oh oh, like that. That's as far as I'll go with singing. Ok, allora cominciamo. So as usual, if you want to interact with me, underneath this video you will see a got a question space. All you have to do is enter your name, your email, and your question, and then that will be sent to me, and I hopefully will receive it as you're typing it. But sometimes technology does not work, as we've found out the hard way. And yes, I can see you're there. Awesome. I have a couple of questions. So let me start with the first question, which came in from Ed. Buonasera, Ed. Buonasera. So your question is, it's related to the top 400 Italian words. And you asked me, let me just grab the question so I can read the exact wording. So il piano means floor. Piano, let me spell it. Piano means floor, as in the level of a building. And so you would like to know, how does floor becomes slower when you say più piano? Well, great question. And the answer is, well, it doesn't really become anything. There are two different words. Take the English word still, because there's a lot of words in English that mean a lot of things. But this one is very similar to what piano does. So when you say still, still could be an adjective meaning not moving, you know, like be still or still photography. You could have still water. So it's got to do with not moving and it's an adjective. But then you can say still meaning not yet. Or I'm still to find out what this means. So still becomes part, like it becomes one of those things that I call grammar bits, and it means yet. So you have still meaning not moving, and then you got still meaning yet, which is a grammar bit. That's what piano is. It's simply two different words. Piano by itself as a noun means floor, and piano as an adverb or adjective, it just has different meaning. It just means slow. Now, piano, Italian uses piano incorrectly, just like English uses slow incorrectly. Okay, so it goes back to the difference between what an adjective is and an adverb is, which is the same across the two languages. The adjective describes a thing and the adverb describes a verb, as the name says. So in theory, in English, we should say like a slow train, because I'm saying the train is slow, so slow train, slow. And then I should say I speak slowly, because it tells you how I do the speaking. So I'm describing the verb, how I do the verb. But you know, we tend to not say slowly a lot. We just say, you know, speak more slow, speak more quick. Oh, I don't know. No, we don't say quick. Ah, yes, we do. So we do slow and quick kind of incorrectly in English, like we do in Italian. So the actual word for slowly would be lentamente. That's because lento means slow as an adjective. So un treno lento, a slow train. Lento, in that case, it means slow. It's describing the treno, un treno lento, a slow train. But then I would say, può parlare più lentamente? Can you speak more slowly? Okay. So that's the correct usage of slowly. It's actually lentamente. Piano by itself doesn't really have to, it doesn't have to do with speed. It has to do with volume. If you think about the English word for piano, which in Italian is pianoforte, it has to do with the volume. Like piano means kind of soft or hard to hear, and then forte means loud. So technically, if I said to you, parla più piano, what I would mean is speak more quietly. And you know, I can say, if somebody's shouting, like I do a lot of the time, because I speak very loudly, because I'm a teacher and I've learned to project my voice, and then I find myself in situations where I shouldn't be projecting my voice, and I can't tell. But yes, so I hear that a lot, like parla più piano. In that case, that means speak more quietly, and they will say in a tone of voice that makes me understand that they want me to lower the volume of my voice. But in common conversation, we have come to use piano to mean slow and not just quiet. So I hope this clears the doubt. But how does it go from floor to slow? It doesn't. It's just that two different words. We're not using the same word and giving it a different meaning. It's just two different words, like we have lots of in English. All right, so I hope that helps. Oh, Laura is saying a still is also a noun for an alcohol producing machine. Ooh, I didn't know that. Like a distillery. Oh yeah, like a distillery. Distillery, yes. Yeah, of course, yeah. Okay, so now Ed also asked me a personal question, which I'm happy to answer, and probably other people have it on their mind. Where in Australia are you, and what university? Okay, so I've spent the past 7 years in a place called Sunshine Coast, and as the name suggests, it's quite nice and it's sunny. I found out that there's a Sunshine Coast in Canada, but this is not in Canada. Sunshine Coast is just a beautiful subtropical location in Australia. It's in the state of Queensland, and the closest town that you would find on Google Maps would be that ugly word, which is Mooloolaba. So there's a lot of Aboriginal names in Australia and here in Queensland, so we don't use a lot of English words for towns. We use Aboriginal language words. And I think that means something to do with a river or something, I can't remember. So what university? Well, my university is a small university, and it's called the University of the Sunshine Coast. And you can find it here. So it's USC, just like the Californian one. It's usc.edu.au. Edu is the domain for the educational sites in Australia and probably around the world. So great little university, amazing environment. It's a wildlife reserve, so we have wild animals on campus. We have kangaroos and protected birds, and it's all protected. And but it's just nice to be teaching and looking out the window and you see kangaroos, and everybody loves them. And the main focus of this university, which is it's considered a regional university. We have 12,000 students, and it's growing. We do focus on sports. We're really good in sports and in biology and water research. In terms of languages, we only teach Italian, Japanese, and Indonesian. So we are very fortunate to have Italian on the Sunshine Coast. And if you're interested, it's quite a big discovery for most people, including Italians, that we would study Italian in a regional part of Australia. But the thing is, Italian up to recently was the second most widely spoken language in Australia. Now it's Mandarin, but it's still the third. So 5% of the Australian population speaks Italian, and a lot more identify themselves as Italians. Now, unlike America, these Italians are recent migrants, as early as from the 50s and 60s and 70s, and a lot of recent migrants. Like it's current migration, so they come and they are Italian living here, or their kids are first generation Australians. So very recent migration. So Italian is a huge language, and here in Queensland, like it is in the other state where Melbourne is, Italian is a very relevant language, and that's why it is taught here. Let's see if there are other questions. I love the formula for creating cool expressions. Just want to check. That's Lore. Buonasera, Lore. So when using che plus an adjective, does che always mean how, or when using che, and when using che plus noun, does it mean what? So what Lore is talking about, in case you haven't covered the content, I introduced a couple of really cool conversational expressions. And it's to make quick comments. So by saying che plus an adjective, like che bello, or che buono, che grande, che simpatico, how beautiful, how big, how good tasting, and how nice and friendly, che simpatico. That's a word probably you want to add to your list. Simpatico. Oops. Simpatico means nice, friendly. It's used for people only. You can't use it for objects. Simpatico, simpatica means nice. And antipatico means unfriendly, rude, and so on. So, but anytime you say che plus an adjective, you're just commenting, so, che bello. Now, does it always mean how? No. I'll tell you, you know what, I'm just going to make it really simple for you. And you might not like my answer, but I think it's the most valuable I can give you and any other person learning Italian at any level. It's not the best way. It's not wise to try and translate everything you learn. Especially for expressions, don't try and find an English equivalent. Just get used to saying stuff. Now, when you ask, does it always mean how? Like how big, how beautiful? I don't know, because sometimes you wouldn't say that in English. You know, you might say, oh, that's great. Well, that in Italian would be che bello. So it's not really how good or how beautiful. In English, you would say, that's great. So it's got a million translations. Just get used to saying che and an adjective to comment something. And then who cares what you would say in English? Especially for the expressions, it's really a good starting point for you to not translate from English and have expressions just come out. You know, just like at this level, when you want to ask, when you want to thank me, you don't think I'm gonna say thank you in Manu. I'm just gonna say grazie Manu. You don't have to think about grazie. It's second nature for you to say grazie. Well, expressions are the next thing that you can automate, so that you don't have to think about them. So the answer is che doesn't always translate with how when it's with adjective, like how great, how beautiful, how nice. It could be translated with that's great, that's cool, that's nice, or any other expression that would describe the same emotion in English, like what could we say? In English, you might just say the adjective like cool, nice. In Italian, it would again be che figo, bello, che bello. So the che is there, doesn't need to be translated. Then we can do the same thing with nouns. So che plus an object, a word, like my beloved telephone. Che telefono, what a phone, meaning it does amazing things. Che telefono. Che pizza, wow, that's a great pizza. Or what a pizza. Again, go with what you would, if you want to find a translation, don't be strict about which one. The best translation is the one that you would say in your language, not the one the dictionary tells you, not the one that matches the real Italian meaning. Because languages are live things in use, so there's no point me translating from a language to another in a way that doesn't reflect the way I would say it in my language. And that's a big thing. That's the biggest problem with translators who haven't been trained. A lot of translated books, if you read a book that wasn't written in your language and has been translated, in most cases, the translator didn't do a good job because they didn't render the same concept with the way you would say in your language. They just translated the idea from Italian to English, but that's not how you would say in English, so it doesn't work. So that's a big problem with translation. So I think my best advice is don't worry about which translation really renders the idea of che plus an adjective or che plus a noun. Just get used to saying it. Okay, I understand. Grazie. I will not get too crazy about each word. Yeah, don't get too crazy. There's gonna be a lot of other things making you crazy in Italy. Don't let these ones, this one get you. Okay. Ed. Both in Italian, tutti e due, which seems a little awkward. Could we use insieme or some other word to answer a question? Okay. So how do we say both in Italian? Well, Ed has looked it up, and he came up with, tutti e due. Tutti e due means both. Literally, tutti e due means all and two. Now, this does look weird, but don't we have this in English? All three, all four. I'll take all three, I'll take all four, or all four of us are going on a holiday. It's the same idea. So first thing I would say, don't look at tutti e due as being awkward, because, well, that's the most current one that we use in Italian. So it's the same, it's the reverse of what I was telling Lori. It's the one that we use, so it's best to not worry too much about how weird it is, because otherwise you're not going to use it. But that's the one we use in Italy. The other thing is, it's not that weird when you think that we use it in English as well. We say all two, we say all three, all four. We don't say all two. We say both. So I say English is weird. Why would you say all three, all four, all seven, but not all two? So English is weird. Nah, I'm kidding. So the first thing is don't look at it as weird. Now, if you want another expression, sorry, just make it entrambe. You're going to be right most of the time. Entrambe. Entrambe means both, but this one is, oh, sorry. This one is a weird looking word for me as well, entrambe. So in spoken Italian, you won't hear me say it. If I'm writing, yes, it's a nice academic word, but we don't really use it a lot in spoken Italian. We do say tutti e due. So if you're shopping and they're showing, they showed you a white shirt and a blue shirt, and then I say quale prende, which one are you taking? Which one do you want? And then you say tutte e due. Now, literally, I've said tutte e due. It's because I know that I'm talking about feminine objects. The shirts are feminine. So I've said tutte in the feminine. Now, as a traveler, who cares if you said tutti e due? It's perfect, they'll understand. So go with tutti e due and use it all the time to mean both. You won't hear people say entrambe to mean both, but it's the same, it means both. You can use it. Now you want to know, can we use insieme? You can't. Insieme means completely different thing. Insieme means together. It doesn't mean with, because the translation for with is con. We use con the same way as English does, like I'm going out with Michelle, esco con Michelle. I'd like a sandwich with tomato, prendo un panino con il pomodoro. So con is with, and it's not a problem here. But insieme means together, and we use it the same way as we use together in English. Okay, for example, sometimes you can say together with in English. You say, I can't think of a sentence, but yeah, you can say together with Michael. So in Italian, you could say insieme a Michael. So you could have that, even though it's a bit different. But in most cases, just we say insieme, meaning together. For example, io e Michelle usciamo insieme. Michelle and I are going out together, go out together, insieme. So it's not quite the same as both. It doesn't really translate that idea, and if you said it, they wouldn't understand. If you have the two shirt options, and let's say quale prende, and you say insieme, they would not understand what you mean, because you're saying together. Together with what? Together with the pants? Like it just wouldn't create a mistake that is understandable. As a reminder, especially as a beginner level Italian learner or a traveler, you want to make mistakes that don't create confusion. And I've been here to help you identify what mistakes are okay and what mistakes aren't okay. And using insieme to mean both would be one of those times when they just wouldn't understand. I can tell you they would not understand what you mean. If instead of tutti e due, you said, which I hear a lot. Let's say, if you said tutte le due, it's a mistake I've heard a lot from English speakers to mean both. Well, because tutte le due, or tutti le due, or whatever, or tutti I due, it is incorrect in a way, because the expression is all and two, tutti e due. But if you make that kind of mistake, they'll understand you, because based on context, they will understand that you mean both. But using a word that is too far, would create confusion. Okay. Any more questions? Graham, buonasera, buongiorno, buongiorno. Che tempo fa in Nuova Zelanda, Graham? Che tempo fa in Nuova Zelanda? What's the weather like in New Zealand? Please comment on the use of a presto when signing off emails, and presto, which is used when to mean ready or early. Yeah. Okay, well, the best way to explain stuff, I find, in my opinion, is to give you examples. You know, that way you see it in usage and you understand how it works. So a presto is a set phrase. And for set phrases, the best advice is to just take them as they are, because they hardly ever make sense. We have tons of set phrases in English that don't really mean what they're saying. Now, a presto kind of means what it says, but take it as a set phrase. So a presto means see you soon. So anytime you're thinking see you soon, you say a presto. If you're thinking see you later, then you can say a dopo. A dopo. But if you're thinking see you soon, a presto. See you soon, a presto. What's the difference? Well, a dopo means I know that I'm going to see you later because, let's say, I'm the receptionist and you've just checked in. I know I'm going to see you. You're going to come out of your room eventually. So a dopo means I know that I'll see you later, so a dopo. We're friends and we're making plans to go out tonight. It's 5 o'clock and we're meeting at 7. When we part to go home and shower and get ready, I'll say a dopo because I know I'm going to see you later. So a dopo means see you later, and it's used when you know you're seeing them later in the same day. Okay. You wouldn't say a dopo if you know that we're meeting tomorrow. You'd say a domani. See you tomorrow. So when you know that you're going to see somebody again in the same day, you'll say a dopo. A presto is similar but different because it means see you soon. So it's like I hope to see you soon. I know I might, but I don't know when. For example, you stayed at my hotel, my bed and breakfast, and every day I've told you a dopo, see you later, but then now you're checking out. And then I can say arrivederci, you know, which means so long, because you're off and I'm not going to see you again. But it's a nice way of saying a presto, hope to see you soon. It's kind of like I hope to see you soon. Now, you don't have to use it as a replacement of so long or goodbye. I can say, for example, at the end of a semester in a classroom setting, I can say a presto, hope to see you soon because I hope you're coming next semester. Let's say you met people at the hotel you're staying and you made friends, and you know that you're both going up north in Italy. You have no plans to meet, but you might. So instead of saying arrivederci, goodbye, you might say a presto, meaning hope to see you soon eventually up there. We might bump into each other in Lago di Garda. And finally, if you're visiting friends and family, or for example, in your case, Graham, and in your case, Laurie, you go and visit people that you see regularly. So that's the best one for you to say a presto. It's like hope to see you soon. I don't know when, it could be a year or two, but a presto means see you soon, and you mean it. So what's the difference between a presto, the set phrase, and presto, meaning early? Well, they're kind of different things. They're just different things. So presto, I'll give you examples because it doesn't quite work the same as English. Oops. Okay. Il treno parte presto. Or domani partiamo presto. The train leaves early, as in not earlier than usual, but leaves early in relation to the time of the day, like early, like 4 a.m. Domani partiamo presto. Tomorrow we're leaving early. So you would put it the same place where you would say early, like that, when it means early in the day. Okay. Where is it? Sì, domani partiamo presto. Tomorrow we're leaving early. Okay, I could say now sono arrivato is a past tense, which means I arrived. Sono arrivato presto. I arrived early. Again, early. Now this one, it's not necessarily in relation to the day. It could be in relation to the appointment or in relation to the event that was supposed to start later. So sono arrivato presto. We have class at 8. Sono arrivato presto means I arrived at 7:30. Okay. Che ore sono? Che ore sono? È presto. What's the time? It's early. So presto really means early by itself, and do not associate it with a presto, meaning too early, because literally the literary translation, or literal translation of a presto is too early or at early, which means nothing in English, nothing at all. So a presto, look at a presto just like arrivederci. A presto is a set phrase, arrivederci, grazie, prego, set phrase. Because literally, when you think about prego, I don't know if I said that, but prego means I pray. I pray you. Meaning I beg you to forgive me, for example, that kind of thing. But, you know, we don't need to think about the meaning because it has become a set phrase, so we don't want to worry about it. So, a presto, see you later. But presto by itself, early, it does not mean, where is it? It does not mean ready, ever, ever. That's in English. In Italian, presto means early. The word for ready in Italian is pronto, pronto. So, when, you know, every Italian has grown up with the setting of hearing their parents calling them, like my kid, Manu. Well, my parents didn't call me Manu. Emanuele, è pronto? It's ready. Lunch, dinner. È pronto? It's ready. So that's a set phrase again. But pronto means ready, but è pronto, see it as a set phrase. You could use it anytime you want to say it's ready. So lunch, dinner, meals. But let's say I'm doing a portrait of you. Then say, okay, I draw it, then you say, can I see it? Posso vederlo? And I say, no, aspetta, devo finire. I have to finish it. And then I, do the final touches and say, okay, è pronto, it's ready. That's what pronto means, ready. Okay. Let me see if there are any other questions. Okay, Ed, grazie, great answer to using tutti e due, perfetto. You're welcome. Prego, prego. Which doesn't mean I pray you. Okay, prego. Okay, now, while you prepare your next question, which I would love to hear, because I love answering questions, I'd like to talk about something that is related to what we talked today about the translation and the trickiness of going across languages. When there are words that are similar, but are used in different contexts. Now, this happens in English and it does happen in Italian. For example, bottiglia, you might know what it means. La bottiglia is a bottle. But Italians don't call, I don't have one here, they use the word borraccia for when it's where your personal take a daily bottle where you go around, I carry a bottle of water all day, but it's not a bottle, it's like a sports bottle or a camping bottle. Like anytime it's not an actual bottle, like Coca-Cola, Ferrarelle, that kind of bottle, Italians will say borraccia. Now, should you worry about the borraccia side of the word? No. In most cases, the one word that you would know for that particular object will work. You know, like in English, there's shirt and blouse. I'm sure that as a foreigner, if I, well, as a woman, walked into your shop and asked for a shirt, you would probably give me a blouse anyway. So there are times when it doesn't really matter if you didn't get the right word. But my encouragement to you, especially in relation to adjectives, is if you're really keen to improve your Italian and feel more flexible, more comfortable, if you don't want to say buono all the time, like good, as in you don't want to say buono to the pizza, you don't want to say buono to the painting, you don't want to say buono to the fact that the train is early, you don't want to say buono to the film that you just watched, you don't want to say buono to the dog that you're looking at. So because you think, oh, was I saying buono? There's a million ways of describing things. So what I would recommend is, like in English, you can find synonyms, like words that mean the same thing but a little bit different. Think about in English. What's that? Well, there's a bunch. So you could say great, you could say good, you could say excellent, fantastic. There's so many ways of saying that something is positive. Well, if you want to expand your Italian, do this. Do a little search on synonyms. What are other ways of saying good as an adjective? And you will find a lot of words. Doesn't mean you have to use all of them, and some of them will be more specific to certain situations, but you will still learn them and start changing the way you speak so you don't always say the same word. Now, you don't have to. You can say buono, and because buono is a positive word, it means good, they'll understand anytime you say it. Even if you're describing a shirt, which in Italian we probably say bella, we talk about it as beautiful rather than good. But again, in English we do the same. But I think you can definitely do that. So I'm going to give you a tool now, and I'll give you a couple, but and again, this is totally optional, but I know that many of you want to really improve your Italian. So which one is the best that I want to give? I think I want to give you this one. Just a second. All right. You know what? I might just give you the best one. Let me give you both. Who cares? All right. So the first one is treccani.it. Now you don't have to do /synonymy, because once you go to treccani.it, you will find the option of encyclopedia. You will find enciclopedia, vocabolario, sinonimi, e dizionario biografico degli italiani. I have no idea what that is, like biographical dictionary of Italians. I don't know what that is. But yeah, definitely, Enciclopedia Treccani used to be the first and the best Italian encyclopedia, like Britannica. So Italy has Treccani. Yes, it sounds like three dogs. I don't think it means that. I think it's somebody's last name, but Treccani. Now with everything having moved online, I don't know how big it is, but they are the best in terms of Italian language. But then you could use this site for the vocabolario, which will give you a definition of a word in Italian. Now, at your level, it might not be the best and most useful way because you think you still need English for you to understand what something means. When you're at a level, like I am, for example, with Spanish and Portuguese or English, I can look up a word that I don't know and read the definition in Spanish and understand what that means. But if you're a beginner, it's not going to work. So definitely go to this link here for synonyms. So I'll give you an example. I've just entered buono, and there are 5 pages of results. Okay, so buono. Now the first one is going to be, if you can do this while we're online, actually, I think I can help you really understand how to use a dictionary, because it's not the most simple thing if you haven't used a dictionary before, or a bilingual dictionary sometimes. But the first entry is buono due, I don't know, but buono. The first entry, it tells you that it's SM, which is not something sexy and kinky. SM. What that means is sinonimo, sostantivo maschile. SM means it's a noun, but that's not the one you want. You don't want the word for good meaning the noun. For example, in English, good is also a noun, like to do good, doing for the good of the nation. So in that case, good is a noun, is a thing, for the good, as in the interest, the well-being of. You want good meaning an adjective. So it's not the first entry. Go to the next one. It says buono, and it says adj. Where is it? Adj meaning adjectivo. So that's the buono that you would want, the adjective. Now, then it says nel senso morale. So as you can tell, like it's in the moral sense. Then it gives you synonyms like benevolente, benevolo, benigno, angelico, caritite. I can't say it. So let's click on this one because definitely it's the adjective that you're wanting. And now it's going to give you a ton of different expressions, a full page of synonyms. But don't just pick any synonym. Pick the one that refers to your context. For example, the first one was in the moral sense. That's not the one you want. You don't want to describe morality with good. You're talking about something else. So you'd have to keep going until you find the meaning of good that is closer to what you're trying to learn, and then learn it, and then you can use it. So definitely I would go to Dizionario, to Treccani. Here's another one. I have not used this one, but I would assume that it's just as good. But Treccani is the authority for Italian language. And this one is sinonimi-contrari.it. Now, did you know that you can go to Wikipedia in Italian? Well, if you're interested in practicing Italian, or just exposing yourself to Italian in the written form, just go to Wikipedia, go to the Italian section at the bottom. I think you can choose the language, and then enter a topic that you're familiar with. If your thing is golf, then enter golf in Italian in Wikipedia and read about golf in Italian. You will recognize a lot of things. Okay, so let's go on with questions. At the end of the video about the past tense, you said siamo andati instead of andato. Should I assume that when you're talking about plurals, in this case we, that the O changes to E? Yeah, I hope you wouldn't notice, but you did. Okay, you're good. All right, so yes, that's the thing. I try to make the past tense simple, but the past tense is never simple in foreign languages. So the main difference between Italian and English, well, Italian uses the two-word past tense, like English has I have gone, I have eaten, I have taken. So, but we use it differently. So that's the first thing you have to do. In English, you might think I went, but you have to try and say I have gone. You might think I bought, but you have to say I have bought in Italian. So that's the first difference, but that's an easy one to, get your head around. Like, yeah, I'm gonna split it into the two words. It's fine. The second big difference, which is the difficult one, is in English you always say have as the first part of the verb. I have said, I have gone, I have seen, I have died. Oh, the cat has died. Better than me, I think. So it's you have to know the verb to have in English, while Italian uses to have and to be, depending on what the nature of the verb is, which is the third and most difficult thing to grasp, when to use avere and essere. And I said, at your level, you might not really have to worry about this. Now, Lori, you might want to care about this because your goal is different with learning Italian, but as a traveler, you can definitely do without understanding the difference. So what I said about the past tense was, if the verb, now this, going back to using dictionaries, let me actually do it with you. I'm going to go to the vocabolario section of the Treccani, and let's see if this helps me. And I'm going to enter a verb. I've picked essere, essere, to be. Now the first entry is essere o non essere, to be or not to be. That's not the one you want. The second one is essere, and it says, and that's what we want to focus on. So again, I've entered essere in the vocabolario section, not the synonymy, the vocabolario, essere, and it gave me one entry which is pointless. The second one says essere, and then it says vi intr. Now, if you use a bilingual dictionary, which is probably what you will do, like you will use probably word reference. Word reference will do something similar. Vi intr means verbo intransitivo. In English, you may have IV for intransitive verb. So what that means, simply, if a verb is intransitive, we use essere as the first part of the verb. So instead of saying I have gone, Italian says I am gone. So that's the hardest thing that somebody has to understand about the past tense in Italian. We talked about how to feel whether a verb is transitive or intransitive, and it's the same as in English as it is in Italian. If the verb needs an object to make sense, it's a normal verb, which is what we call transitive with a T, and it uses avere just like English. For example, to buy, well, you gotta buy something. Kiss, you gotta kiss something or somebody. Write, you gotta write something or you gotta write something. Even dream, we gotta dream of something. You're dreaming a dream. You're not just, okay? So most verbs will be like this. But then there are verbs that don't mean an object to make sense, and they're not about the object, they're about the subject. For example, to die. Can you die somebody? No, you can kill somebody. You can't die somebody. So die is intransitive with an I, and it uses essere. So we'd say è morto, it is dead, instead of it has died. È morto. So that's the thing that you probably already understood from the videos. I'm not saying that you can use it already because it's tough to digest it, but that's what you probably already know. Now, Laurie has noticed that when I said, what was the sentence that you used, example that I used that you pointed out to me? You said, siamo andati. So, in Italian, when we use avere as the first part, oops, that second part, like the mangiato, which is the equivalent of the ed version of English, ho mangiato, I have eaten, that mangiato doesn't need to change. It doesn't matter who ate and what they ate, it doesn't matter. So I can have me as a man having eaten one apple, ho mangiato una mela, and me as a man having eaten two apples, ho mangiato due mele. The ho mangiato doesn't change. We could have you, Laurie, a woman, saying ho mangiato una mela, and ho mangiato due mele. So that doesn't change, regardless of who's doing it and what they're doing it to. So that's the easiest way of using the verb in Italian. Using avere as the first part. All you have to do is knowing the present tense of avere, and then using the ed, which is the ato, uto, or ito form of the verb. That's the easiest one. When we use essere, I have gone, technically, yes, we have to treat the second word, which is called the past participle, the ed version of the word. We have to use it pretty much as an adjective. So a woman will say, sono andata. Siamo andati, we went or we have gone. Now, siamo andati is good for a bunch of men, two at least, or a mixed crowd. But two women should say, siamo andate. So it goes back to the four options for gender and number. Masculine singular words end with o, and plural masculine end with e. That's why we've got andato and andati for many of us. Feminine words, adjectives end with a, and feminine plurals end with e. That's why you have sono andata, I went for a woman, and siamo andate, we went for women. Okay, first thing, this is beyond the scope of the course because I don't think it's necessary for you to be understood, to be correct about this. But if you want to be correct, that's how it works. Why? Well, don't worry about why. The best way for me to help you remember this is if you're at a decent beginner level of Italian, and you might as well be, Lori, because you spent some time learning Italian, you already know that every time you describe something, you have to match the gender of that thing. So probably, I don't know if it's your case or everybody out there, but it already sounds weird to say, for a woman to say, sono americano. You might say, hold on, you're not a man. Sono americana, that's what you mean, right? So if you're at this level where it already sounds wrong, it doesn't mean you'll do it all the time because you forget, but if it most of the times sounds wrong already, to hear the wrong gender when describing people, for example, then you're at a good point. For example, if you heard me say, sono italiana, you say, hold on, why did you use the feminine? I am, sono, italiana. But italiana means Italian for a woman. Or a feminine thing. Could be a pizza, una pizza italiana. So I could say, questa è una pizza italiana. This is an Italian pizza. Questa è una pizza italiana. So what this is kind of trying to give you the idea of is that every time we use the verb to be, we are talking about the subject, sorry. If I say, this car is, you know that what follows is about the car. If I say, I am, you know that what I'm about to say is about me. If I say, they are, you know that whatever follows is about them. Isn't it? So whatever follows the verb to be is a description of who the subject is. This doesn't happen with to have, even in English. If I say, I have, can you expect what follows? No, because I could have anything. I could have one car, I could have 20 cars, I could have masculine, feminine objects, doesn't matter. So to have doesn't imply that what follows is masculine, feminine, singular, or plural. You don't know. That's because having is a verb that is about the object. Somebody has something. So to be in the present tense is a verb that is about the subject. So you expect gender already. So when you move this concept to the past tense and you realize, well, Italian uses avere or essere as the auxiliary of the past tense, meaning the first of the two words for the past tense. Well, the idea extends to that. So whenever the auxiliary is to have, we don't care what follows because you can't predict it. But when you use to be as the first part of the verb, you're creating the expectation. Like I said, you would probably know that it's wrong to say io sono italiana, because when I say io sono, you already immediately know that I'm going to talk about masculine singular. If I talk to you and I ask you, are you Italian? And I say, lei è italiano, you would feel wrong because if I'm talking to you, I should describe you as a woman. So that's how you can remember to have the ed version of the Italian past tense change to match gender and number when you're using essere as the auxiliary, but in most cases you'll be fine if you don't. It's really important if you want to speak correctly, and as a beginner it's never a good idea to wanting to speak correctly, as bad as it sounds. As an academic Italian teacher, I can't say this to my students at the university. We want them to speak correctly, but in reality, if your goal is communication, communicate. You have surely communicated with foreigners who spoke broken English, but you were able to understand what they were saying, you were able to converse, you were able to make friends. And Lori, you probably have experienced this with Italians speaking broken English. As long as you understood what they meant, you were happy. Okay, so Lori, that is very helpful to know that I should use an A at the end for myself when using essere in the past tense. Yes. Any woman out there, whenever you talk about past tense about yourself, for verbs that uses essere, like to go, to be, to come, to return, to arrive, as you learn more Italian, you realize that all these verbs use essere. If you're a woman, you're always going to say sono andata, I went. I'm going to write them down, and then we can wrap up this webinar. Sono andata, I went. Sono stata, I was or I've been, or I've stayed. Sono partita, I've left. I left. I departed. I have left. As for a woman, okay? Sono arrivata. You could say sono arrivata in Italia. Sono arrivata in Italia 2 giorni fa. That fa at the end of the sentence means ago. I've arrived to Italy 2 days ago. So sono arrivata in Italia 2 days ago, 2 giorni fa. That's for a woman. The whole page would change to this for a man. Oops. Ah! And I would say as a man, sono andato in America, I went to America. Sono stato in Francia, I've been to France. Sono partito ieri, I left yesterday. Sono arrivato oggi, I arrived today. As a man. As a woman, you should have it feminine. Again, as a traveler or a tourist, not essential. If you're spending a longer period of time, like Laura is, or maybe Graham, because you have a different story, you're not going to Italy for travel. But don't worry, your little grandson will correct every mistake you make. So you will have the best teacher in your grandson. If he hears you say sono arrivata, he will laugh and say, ha ha ha, Grandpa talked about himself as a woman. You'll never do it again. So that's why mistakes are so important, and I really don't want you to be scared of making mistakes. It's the best way to learn a language, especially if you are fortunate enough to have made a connection with Italians. If you have somebody special, it could be just a casual friend or somebody who is looking after you, or maybe a distant relative, or a friend that you made via Facebook, because these days people make friends on Facebook and then they connect, so there's nothing wrong with that. So whatever the reason, if you have somebody special in Italy, you have a great teacher there, and there's no reason to be scared of making a mistake, because the more mistakes you make, the more they will help you fix it. Okay, so let me check if there are any further questions. Otherwise, we can call it a day. See, that's an expression in English. Call it a day. Let's talk about this quickly. My advice for you as a learner of Italian is to always try and express what you want to say in English, as long as the English makes literal sense. If what you're thinking in English doesn't make literal sense, don't try to translate that into Italian, even if you know all the words, because in many cases it doesn't work. So just now I said, let's call it a day. What does it mean? Now, of course, you know what it means because you say it's an expression, but always have a look at what you're trying to say. Is it like a figurative expression, or is it a matter of fact expression that I'm trying to say? Am I saying this pizza is burnt? Is that a thing? Is that really what I'm trying to say? The pizza's burnt? Yeah, it means the pizza's burnt. So yeah, I'm gonna try and translate that in Italian, and probably it's gonna work if I get all the words right. Or if I stuff up a few, it's still gonna work. But if I'm thinking once in a blue moon, which we don't use a lot, but once in a blue moon, does it mean what I mean? No, because what I mean is hardly ever, or rarely, or not very often. These are the ones that you want to translate into Italian. Rarely, raramente. Not often, non spesso, or not too often, non troppo spesso. These are the expressions that would work if you went from English to Italian because they actually mean what they're saying. But an expression that doesn't literally say what you mean is not going to work in many cases. So once in a blue moon, if I translate it, it would be una volta ogni luna blu. Means nothing to me as an Italian. You know what Italians say? And if you understand a little bit of Italian, you'll find this funny. Ogni morte di papa. Ogni morte di papa is the Italian way of saying once in a blue moon. Literally means every death of pope. So every time a pope dies, which is not very often because they're people, so they die after 20, 30 years they've been popes. So that's the Italian way of saying once in a blue moon. But again, if I, as an Italian, try to say that in English, and if you ask me, do you ever go swimming? And I said, once every pope's death, you'd have no idea what I mean. You'd be lost, you laugh, but it means nothing. So that's my final advice for you today. Now I have a couple of important communications. Okay, so Lori, yes, all of this is great and will help me understand more until I can speak more. I am very glad to have you as a teacher now instead of my dry books. Grazie ancora. Oh, thank you, Lori. I love doing this. I really love doing this. And it's a pleasure to have students like you, because I mean, when I prepare this course and I sat down to plan it, I realized, well, what is missing out there for learning Italian is the real interaction with a person. Of course, you could go Rosetta Stone, you could go Pimsleur, but they're just dry as a book. You don't talk to anybody, you can't ask anything to anybody, and then you can't really have the human interaction, which is the key of a language. So I thought, I'm going to do it this way. But I also knew that because of time constraints and because of people's commitments and because of people's shyness, not everybody was going to take advantage of the live interactions. Now, as I'm planning for the future, and you helped really create and better this course, and there's going to be another round that is still going to help improve the product, and then it will be sold at a higher price point. As you realize that $97 was what should I said the price, because maybe who's watching this now hasn't paid that, but that was the initial launch price, and it was a great deal for you, but it was a great deal for me because it helped me create a better product and improve and realize what was working and what's not working. So I still believe that offering me as your go-to person and contact is the most valuable thing I can give you, but also realize not everybody can take advantage of it or wants to take advantage of it, and that's perfectly fine, but I still like to offer it. So it's been a great pleasure to have you as students, and I'm talking to all of you out there, whether you have joined classes, the live classes, or not, you still have contributed. And what I would ask you to do this being the final, not really, but it's the final Q&A webinar for the 5-week course, I ask you to please contact me, even if you haven't done it so far. If you watch this webinar, well, let me know what was really helpful and what you wish I had talked more about. Now, again, keeping in mind this is a beginner's course, it's a 5-week survival course, so don't say, I wish you talked about the hypothetical sentences. Well, it's not useful to a traveler. So, but what traveling thing have I not spoken about? Something that is coming up, by the way, I can't remember whether it's tomorrow, Friday, or Saturday. It's a video on travel advice, because you probably know where to go in Italy. You have a plan of where to visit, but this is a video that makes you think about outside the box and outside of the beaten path. So I talk about different places that you can consider which are amazing and totally worth visiting that are not on the standard travel guide. Well, they might be in a book, but people don't go there because they got to do Rome, Pompeii, Capri, Florence, Venice, and Cinque Terre, and Amalfi Coast. There's a lot more. So I talked about those things that, I hope you enjoy it. Now, going back to what's the future of this course, and I think Ed asked, sei divertente oggi, are you funny today? Oh, thank you. I hope that's a good thing. Eccellente, excellent. What's the plan for week 6? So, week 6 doesn't exist in a way because this is a 5-week course, but I still want to give you more. So, the plan for week 6, and you're going to hear more about this in the next 2 days, is going to be a number of live sessions. They're all going to be face-to-face. So, like the thing that we do on Thursday with Zoom, the Zoom application. And anybody's welcome to join. Even if you have never joined a live session, even if you only have done week 1, it's a way to practice anything. So you're there and you say, okay, look, I've only done week 1, then we'll talk about introductions. You say, I've only done up to week 2, then we'll order food and we'll do whatever your level is, and I'll challenge you a little bit so that you can improve it. There's going to be a bunch of these. I'm planning to do at least 5, which is plenty. So if you haven't been able to join because of time constraints, this might help because there's going to be 5. They're all going to be recorded and added to the membership site, which you will have access forever or as long as the website is up, which I intend to keep it up for a long time. But I don't want to, I want to commit to lifetime because I might not be here for life. Not kidding. So you'll always have access to the recorded content. Now, as a special thing for this particular cohort, with like students who have joined at this point and who have helped create the course, I will, as of September, I will re-offer the 5-week live interaction. So it's going to give you a couple of months to go over the content if you haven't had time or if you've stayed behind, which I realize it's possible. The pace was pretty steady because my goal was to get it ready in 5 weeks if you had to go to Italy in 6 weeks. But, some of you don't have to go to Italy in 5 weeks. So you've taken your time and it's totally fine. So what I'll do is, as of September, I will be offering another cycle of sessions. Now, the plan for the future of the course is to sell the course as a pre-recorded format with all the all the content accessible at the one time. It's not what I wanted, but it's what I realize may work better for people. There's another one I make all the content available is for overwhelm, because I'm a terrible student. I'm a great teacher at uni, I think. I base that on my students' feedback, but I'm a terrible student because when I have access to something, I consume the whole thing. So I bought a course, how to play the violin. I watched all 60 lessons in like 2 days. I didn't practice, I didn't do it. That doesn't help. It just overwhelms you and makes you realize, oh, I'm actually bad when you're watching video 10. So I actually don't understand what you're saying. So the reason behind me giving you access to content every day was to make it easier for you, but I realized it still can create overwhelm. So the future of the course is to have the content all accessible and offer weekly webinars and weekly live sessions at all levels every week. So the future of the course is for somebody to come into the course at anytime, consume the product, the content at any pace, and then be able to join their level every week. So if you're a week 2, at any given time, you'll be able to come and join a week 2 chat level. Or if you want to do it for 2 weeks, you're going to join a week 2 level twice. Now, the packaging is going to be different, obviously. It has to support me, so I'm able to do this as my full-time activity. So the packaging is going to be different. I'll try to keep the cost as low as possible. I do want to give you the best value, and I want to compete with the big guys who's charging $300 to $500. I don't want to do that. But the course will be sold as a live 5-week course, which means you have access to the content for lifetime and weekly sessions for 5 weeks. And that's it. If you want access for longer, then it's going to be a separate package that gives you access to more live interaction, because being here live, of course, takes up my time, whereas the recording doesn't, whatever it has been recorded. So that's the plan for the future. So if you're watching this and it's already the future, then that's how things are. But for you out there right now, July 23rd, 24th, 2014, that's not the future yet. Okay, so I will send you an email in a couple of days telling you how things are going to work for week 6. Everything's going to be recorded again if you can't watch it. And another thing that I wanted to say, let me just get rid of this dead Pope. Sorry, I didn't like the dead Pope on the screen for too long. The other thing that I wanted to say is where to go after this. Now, if your goal was to get to Italy in 6 weeks' time, you've done the 5 weeks, well, you already feel comfortable that you're going to be 100 times better off than you were before you started. My plan is I get tons of emails from past students who've taken this kind of content from me in different ways, and they've all have great experiences, and they're very appreciative of the fact that they've taken the course. So what I'd like to do is, if you end up using this stuff, please let me know. Email me at any given time, 2 weeks from now, a year from now. Let me know how you went. Let me know how this helped you. But also, the future of me with you is now this traveler's course has ended, but many of you, I know this from experience, many of you will fall in love with Italian. You'll go to Italy the first time, or one more time, knowing a little bit of Italian, you'll come back and you'll probably be in love with Italian and you will want to learn more. So I am preparing a continuation or continuity program where we can keep working together so that you can progress and keep having weekly access to me as a live teacher. So, but that's coming soon, and you will be notified about this. So, grazie mille ancora, grazie mille. È sempre bello parlare con voi. Sono contentissimo di avervi come studenti e spero di vedervi presto. I hope to see you soon. Lori, I will recommend your course to any of my friends that decide to go to Italy, and thank you for making it available for us after the 6 weeks end. Really fabulous. My pleasure, my pleasure. It's been a pleasure to work with you, and I hope you have learned a lot. And I hope this is not the end of our interaction. Ok, grazie mille, buona serata o buona giornata, e ci vediamo domani. So I'll see you tomorrow for the live video chat, which is at the same time, whichever time this thing started today for you, tomorrow is going to be the same time. Ok, ciao e grazie mille. E ci vediamo presto. I just have to find how to close this webinar. Ciao ciao.